What's up, everybody? We haven't done a Clang and Bang workout recently, so we're gonna knock one out today. Gonna be some pretty standard stuff. We're gonna do a Tabata style workout, and for those of you who don't know what Tabata means, that's the name of a guy who did a study on basically interval training, where if you train at a little bit higher intensity for a longer period of time than your rest, that higher intensity is gonna gain you more benefit than taking like a long, slow distance kind of approach to training, or training with minimal intensity, minimal work, and a lot more rest, right? So each one kind of has its value, but if you've been watching any of the Clang and Bang videos, we want to keep the intensity high, the rest short, and blast out reps as hard as we can for a little bit shorter duration, but in the end it pays off more because that intensity is a little bit higher. So we're going to work that Tabata work-rest schedule into our workout today with some dumbbell bicep curls, some Arnold's press, close stance front squats with the dumbbells. We're just gonna prop those up on the shoulders, and the reason that I'm gonna bring my feet in close is because I wanna work my quads a little bit more, and then some double dumbbell deadlifts. And I'm gonna focus on keeping my legs fairly straight for that. You could basically call it a straight leg deadlift. There's gonna be a little bit bend in the knee, but I really just wanna overemphasize the use of the hamstrings on that movement. So for our two upper body movements for the bicep curl, we're not gonna do anything real strict today. This is all about knocking out the reps as hard as you can in the time that you're given. So if there's a little bit of arm swing, if you have to basically kip the dumbbell up to the top of the shoulder, that's totally fine. That's what we're looking for. We wanna keep that intensity high. On the Arnold's press, you want to make sure that as you have the dumbbells down here and we're rotating up towards the top and finish at the press, when you come down, make sure you rotate all the way back in so you have that bicep as like the secondary portion of the arm that you're working here. It's not a primary mover in this movement, but that rotation and having to statically hold the dumbbells here at the bottom of the rep is going to impact a little bit more for a total arm movement when we do the Arnold's press. For the close stance front squat, we want to bring our feet inside from our normal squat stance. So a normal squat stance for most people is going to be about shoulder width apart with your toes slightly pointed out. It's a very general way to start any kind of squatting exercise. From there, I'm actually going to bring those bad boys in, keep my toes a little bit more forward. So I'm only actually about one shoe length apart in terms of how wide my feet are going to be. Right? That's going to cause me to focus on more of my quad. I'm not going to be able to open my knees out or push my knees out quite as far, which is going to stop me from being able to use so much of my hip or glutes, right? Have to keep my chest a little more upright because of that front squat. All of those things are going to cause you to activate more of your quads while you're doing these reps. So for the actual sets, reps, and time domains for today's workout, we're gonna do 10 rounds of each movement. And for the work to rest ratio, we're gonna do 20 seconds of work and 15 seconds of rest. So typically the Tabata, or what it's famous for in terms of the study, is a 10-second rest with a 20-second work interval. We're gonna add an extra 5 seconds in there just to try to make sure that we can get through all 10 sets without having to take a break in the middle of that 20-second work interval. That 15 seconds is still less than 20. It's still a shorter rest interval than it is the work interval, right? And it's important to note, I'm going to go through all 10 rounds of each movement before I move on to the next movement. So I'm going to do all 10 rounds of my bicep curl, then I'm going to jump into the straight leg deadlift, and then move into my Arnold's press, and then finish on the front squat. But I'm going to do all 10 rounds of a single movement before I jump to the next movement. So we're not going to cycle through this. We're going to really burn out that one muscle group before we move on to the next. Stay tuned to the end, because I'm going to show you another way that we can knock out our quads and our hamstrings really good. If you don't have a leg extension, leg curl machine, or the reverse hyper like I do, there's a really simple way that we can still burn out those hamstrings, burn out those quads using some weight, and kind of simulate that leg extension and leg curl machine.
Come take a seat. Mount up the feet. I'm hungry like I've been fasting this week. It's time to eat. Back from the dead, but don't repeat. I'm the missing link. Open your eyes. What do you seek? My vision complete. Them as black as they come. Even shoot black when I'ma shoot back when they come. Bang. They wanna attack, but I'm numb. Just gets the black on my bum. I'm moving back to the sun. I just rap cause it's fun. Got my lady wearing all black like a nun. Make a deposit. Leave them with some knowledge. 100 grand and I ain't safe for college. My kids gon' get all this. Uncle Sam with it all when he yard it. Even the land when I bought it. Add it up, go we got a problem. Get out the way if you ain't tryna solve it. Let's paint it all. We in awe. I need it in awe. Mind, heart, soul, I go, let's paint it all. We in awe. I need it in awe. Mind, heart, soul, I go. Lost space, lost time, too much shade, can't shine. All you do is follow suit, hands tied. I'm the truth, Jim Carrey can't lie. No fear, no die. You first, same time. Tell them all we alive, all rise. Ayo, oh, tell them folks it's bedtime, lights out. We in awe. Yeah, I need it in awe.
Okay, quick wrap up. That's one of my favorite ones we've done, upper body pull push, lower body pull push. That extra 15 seconds rest was clutch in being able to really drive out the reps for the full 20 seconds on all movements, right? There was a couple rest points on the front squats for sure at the top. The reps slowed down a little bit. Took me a second to get them up to the front rack position, so that took away a little bit from the work, but overall, I thought it was great, like in terms of the loading for the curl, the straight leg deadlift, and the front squat. Now for the Arnold's press, if you've got lighter weight dumbbells, I would go with those. I knew that was going to be a little bit of a problem, but 50s are as light as I've gotten here right now. So I probably would have dropped down to 35 to 40 pounds for me. So if you're looking at scaling that, think about dropping down from 50s down to around 40s for the whole workout, and then instead of 35s for the Arnold's press, you're going to drop down to 25 to 20, somewhere down in there. Because those really get tough after you blow out your arms. You're still using your arms in like your upper back when you're doing the deadlift. That was something I definitely noticed that wore on the Arnold's press, is all the auxiliary muscles that you're using to stabilize when you're doing your curls, your deadlifts, your front squats. So even my upper back, into my T-spine and my lower back, we're still getting worked on the front squats, right? Trying to keep my chest upright, balance the weight on my toes or on the middle of my foot. If you do watch, or when you do watch, or when you did watch the front squats, I was coming up onto my toes a little bit. That's okay for this. Typically you wouldn't want to do that. But again, I'm trying to drive my knee forward almost as far as I can get it to activate more of that quad muscle, right? That's kind of what I'm focused on. The loading's fairly light, so I'm not super concerned with it in terms of the form, technique, injury, anything like that. My knees felt fine, everything felt great. So awesome workout. Let's talk a little bit about how you can do a finisher for leg extension and leg curls if you don't have any machines to do it with. Okay, so if you don't have leg curl, leg press, or reverse hyper, a simple dumbbell is going to be an easy way that you can get in some good quad work for leg extension. So all I'm going to do is pinch this dumbbell between my feet. I've got the loadable dumbbell here. A normal dumbbell will work as well. You're probably not going to be able to use a huge amount of weight, but that's okay because of how I'm going to show you how to do the reps. So ideally you would have a raised seat like I do with this box, and then almost a empty area underneath. So if you have a plyo box that has nothing underneath it, that's going to be your best option to perform the leg curl with. So all I'm going to do is pinch the dumbbell with my legs and then extend up to the top. What I want to do is actually hold for about a 1/1000 count at the top. Control that descent on the way down. Okay, for the leg curl, you're going to use a bench, and you're going to elevate the side of the bench that you want your head to be at. And we're going to do that just so we can make sure that the dumbbell stays off the ground while we're doing the leg curl. But you're going to lay down on this bench, grab onto something at the front, whatever you can support with, whether it's the post or the front of the bench, and then do the same thing. We're going to put the dumbbell into our feet and then curl up close to our hamstring or up close to our the bottom of our butt. So when we do this though, I want to make sure that my pelvis and my stomach stay pinned to the bench, right? I don't want to have some gap in between me and the bench. That's not going to allow me to utilize my hamstrings how I want to. So I'm going to really try to flatten out my pelvis, flatten out my psoas and my hip flexors onto the bench when I'm doing the leg curl. It's also important to note that I want my knees to be right on the edge of the bench. Okay, so I don't want my knees hanging somewhere far off the bench this way, or I don't want them too far up the bench towards my head or pushing my body further up the bench this way. I want to be able to have them right on the edge. Thank you guys for tuning in. Remember to like, subscribe, put any questions down in the comments, and we'll see you next time.